And we're live.
Yes, we are. I see the notification.
Well, this week has been either delightfully slow or painfully slow, depending on your perspective.
Painfully. Well, I'll take the middle ground on that.
Yeah, it has its ups and downs for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely feel pain. I think
Pain.
more than delight about it. Just because I really like doing this show and I really like talking about really interesting things, and sometimes there just aren't many interesting things to talk about.
Yeah.
At least not from the last 7 days.
And I feel like our default topic of AR, of augmented reality, is kind of played at this point.
Yeah, we need to find a new default topic to really overdo.
How do you feel about AI? Robots?
I don't know. It's a big topic, that's for sure.
Actually, one stupid thing I've been looking at is, Sony still makes Walkmans?
Mm-hmm.
And
I
they're
did know
like
that.
this chunky pieces of plastic that are brightly colored, and they run like Android, I don't know, maybe 7.0 by now. But they
Yep.
kind of physically look cool, and I'm kind of there. Kind of there.
How does that relate to AI?
Oh, nothing. It's one possible consumer topic.
Gotcha.
Consumer
Well,
gadget topic.
for today's show, we're gonna try and just talk about a few topics that, like, every once in a while we just have a chance to do a Q&A show. Basically, we just put our feelers out on social media and ask people what questions they might have. And today we have, it looks like about 10, 15 questions. So given that, if you're watching live right now, thanks for tuning in. We'll get started here in a minute. This is basically just an open floor. So if anyone wants to just drop any questions in the YouTube live stream, we don't have super chat enabled, so you can't give us money to to make sure we talk about your question. So no guarantees, but we will be talking about and answering some of your questions. So please do drop some questions in the live chat. And so, yeah, let's get on to our first question, I guess. Last week, for those that don't know, we had a pretty big Pixel 4 show. Early last week, we had a scoop basically on the entire spec sheet of the Pixel 4, and we've kind of exhausted that topic. I think last week's show was pretty much the extent of what could be talked about with those things. But we do have some people that have been dropping us some questions about certain things. I guess we could just start with a really big, high up in the clouds kind of question, which is, do you think that the Pixel 4 will be a hit this year? And yeah, what do you think about that?
Okay.
First of all, let's define hit.
Hit is Google feeling bold enough to actually share numbers a la early iPhone, and when Apple used to do first weekend of iPhone sales. That is a hit. I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I guess though, I mean, so if you don't hold the Pixel to that standard, the standard of being a hit on the same level that we saw the iPhone be a hit year after year for 10 years, what do you think would be a hit for Google? So Rick Osterloh, for those that don't know, is kind of the head of the hardware division at Google, and now has kind of taken over the Pixel division as well, as we saw in a report this week. So to him, what if we're in Rick Osterloh's shoes? What do you think for him would be the Pixel 4 was a hit?
I think he has a number. He has it has to sell better than if the Pixel 3 was a flop compared to the Pixel 2, it very much seems that the Pixel 2 was Google's all-time bestseller at this point.
Yeah, I guess so, which is kind of depressing, but yeah, probably.
So I guess beat Pixel 2 numbers by, I don't know, 2x, 3x in an opening week, opening weekend, opening week. See how many pre-orders you're getting in, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Because
yeah, I think that works.
Because the answer that Sundar Pichai will tell you is that the Pixel gets great metrics, gets very great customer sat facts, and that's a very ambiguous target, which is definitely true. People enjoy the Pixel experience, but at this point, 4 years into the game, Google cares about numbers, and they want to see an actual profit on their phone investment.
Yeah, I mean, I think even the profit conversation is probably at least a few years away.
Yeah.
If they ever reach it. I don't think that, if I were to guess right now, I don't think that the Pixel will ever turn a profit. That would be my guess. And maybe that's a little bit pessimistic.
Dire. Yes.
Yeah, but I feel like it's also kind of realistic. I don't know. I would like to be hopeful, but every part of me feels like we're actually. I feel like it's more likely, if we were betting today whether or not, say it's an A/B proposition. One option is the Pixel turns a profit, and the other option is the Pixel dies. Which do I think is more likely? I think the Pixel dying is more likely as of today.
I don't think they even entertain that discussion until they get another big hit from hardware, from any hardware, or in this case, Stadia, any service, to replace whatever the Pixel brings in. I don't think they can retreat until they have a hit. We don't know what the margins are on the home, how much money they're actually making on smart displays and stuff, but I think they need one hit or one clear possibility of a hit before they even consider leaving phones.
The other thing too, I think, to keep in mind with Google is that it's a lot harder to define how much money the Pixel is making than it is for other companies. For Apple, it's really just like obviously there's the indirect sales of services and stuff, which has been a very big deal for Apple lately and has been a growing business. But I think with Google, because Google, obviously Google's business is advertising. I wonder how much of an effect just the Pixels are having on how many people are reading stories in Discover feeds, for example. Like, I know that the number across the entirety of Android is probably way bigger than the Pixel for that.
Absolutely.
But I just wonder if that's taken into account. How much of a bump is the Pixel giving ad revenue for stories that are discovered in Discover in the Google feed? I don't know, probably not much, but that's just something to think about whenever we think about Google considering whether or not the Pixel is turning a profit or not. Obviously, that's just one of many factors, but it's not as black and white as being just sheer unit sales as it might be for some other companies.
Yeah, and I guess Google's saving grace here is when they release their next Pixel 4a or whatever they end up calling it. They do have that mid-range which they could possibly completely own on Android if they keep playing it right.
I would also guess that Pixel users are probably higher convert in terms of Google's premium services. So like, I would guess Pixel users are more likely to be YouTube Premium subscribers and more likely to be Google One subscribers and more likely to be YouTube Music subscribers than Android as a whole. That would be my guess. So I wonder. We'll probably never know, but I wonder what the metrics are on that and how the Pixel affects Google's revenues in other categories. Probably negligible, considering obviously Pixel has not been crazy big business, but I wonder. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think the Pixel 4 is going to be a hit personally. I think that if you define hit as being the only interesting phone on the market other than the Samsung and Apple flagships, which to me I think it will be. I really do think this fall.
Absolutely.
I mean, maybe OnePlus, but yeah, I mean, OnePlus would be the only other. It would be the only other one in my mind personally.
Yeah, the Google would be a distant third, frankly, because it's
They're a distant third, but yeah,
it's something.
Yeah, and I mean, OnePlus is not launching a phone this fall, as far as we know. I think they've been kind of a 2 phone a year system, and so that would suggest potentially a
7T,
a 7T,
which would presumably just a 5G version. I think we just saw that moments ago, and that is in a a mass market phone.
Yeah, the 7 Pro to me seems like, how do you even improve on that phone for at least a year? Like, how can you improve on that phone just 6 months later? It's already ahead of a lot of other devices, I think, in terms of some of the engineering feats that they accomplished with it. But yeah, so I don't know. I think it will be a hit in the sense that I think that this Soli stuff and those kind of new interaction features will be unique and stand out. I think we'll see Soli integrated across Google's hardware. And so I think those kinds of things across all of Google's hardware is going to stand out, including the Pixel 4. And then I think the camera again will be probably Google will find some way to make the camera stand out. And so, yeah, I don't know. It might be a hit, but it might be a hit in the same way the original Pixel was a hit. The original Pixel was a hit in some ways, but it obviously didn't even make a dent in the smartphone market in terms of sales. So,
no,
yeah, it depends on how you define hit. So I think is that you think a succinct answer to that question?
That's a succinct answer. That was very long.
Yeah, very succinct.
Okay, so actually, this is more of another hypothetical question. Okay, let's say I think it's accepted that the Pixel phone is the top in Google's hardware hierarchy. What comes next? What is there?
Well, what do you mean by that? What makes it the top in the hierarchy?
I think it's the one they put their most effort in. It's sure maybe it doesn't sell well, but in terms of experience, they know how to do a phone. They've done three Pixels and however many Nexuses before. Like I think I'm not going to say like making a phone is easy, but at the same time, at this point they should know how to make a phone.
Do you think that the Pixel is more important to Google hardware than the Google Home?
No, because
so you agree that Google Home is the most important product?
Not for hardware. I think the distinction I'm making is because I don't see Google Home as hardware. I see it as a vessel for the service. There's no real your interaction with Home. The physical hardware could be replaced at any time, and your experience wouldn't be different whatsoever. I've always yes, Google Home is in the Pixel, in the made by Google hardware division. I've always considered it as more of an extension of the assistant.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I guess I don't know. To me, I just see that I see the Amazon Echo and now the Google Home as kind of the most innovative hardware product that's come out since the smartphone. And so
innovative, definitely. But in terms of use, what's still the top dog here? Phones or voice?
Yeah, probably phones. But
yeah,
not the Pixel.
No, not the Pixel.
So yeah. Anyways, what were you saying?
This was basically this is my transition at what do we talk about next? Do we talk about the Pixelbook or do we talk about wearables? Because there is a lot of excitement for wearables, even though Google has done nothing with it yet.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? I mean, we could go with Pixel Watch. We got a lot of questions about Pixel Watch.
Yeah.
Multiple people are asking us to talk about pretty much anything Pixel Watch, because as this person notes, this is from Twitter user Maxime. I don't know how to pronounce them, but they said, knowing that the Pixel Watch is unlikely, it would be weird if Google didn't release at least one accessory for the new Pixel phones, and I don't see another possibility other than new Pixel Buds. So I guess we could talk about wearables in general. Do you think Pixel Watch is going to happen? Do you think new Pixel Buds are going to happen?
Actually, I want to tackle the Pixel Buds first. So Pixel Buds are Google Assistant headphones, and personally, I think that entire category has been a failure. That Google Assistant on headphones as an audio operating system could have been more of a thing if it was marketed better, if it was given a higher profile. But when you think about headphones, you think about AirPods. Google has no market share in this, what should be an exciting category of interacting via audio when you're on the go, which is a thing that people do all the time.
Yeah, I think that Google's kind of in a rough spot with some of these things, and I think it comes down to their hardware chops in general. Like, Pixel Buds were launched around the same time as the AirPods, and were basically, there was not very much technological innovation, advancement in the Pixel Buds at all. It was just kind of a Google branded product of something that already existed.
Yeah.
So Google's just behind on that, and I think they're also behind on the watch situation too. I mean, and you can't just come out of nowhere and make an engineer, a wearable, whether it be Pixel Buds or Pixel Watch, that is just as technologically as advanced as the AirPods and the Apple Watch are. You just can't.
Yeah.
You can't just come out of nowhere and just do that.
And in a lot of ways, the Pixel, all Wear OS the majority of Wear OS devices uses the Qualcomm chip, and the same thing is true about headphones. Qualcomm has this hardware developer kit to easily slot Google Assistant into your headphones. It was announced at I/O, and for the most part, it's just a standard chip. They're not doing any innovation with what Apple's doing with their was it W2 H1 now, the custom audio chips to improve latency, to improve pairing. None of that has a chance of happening, really.
Yeah, it's just not. I don't see any evidence that. I mean, I don't know. Some of these smaller niche products, they are definitely, small enough that Google could surprise us, and the likelihood of them leaking is pretty low compared to something like the phone or a Google Home, because it's just there's less points of potential exposure on those things. And I mean, that was the case with Google Clips, for example. Google Clips was a niche product that probably was manufactured in very small numbers, and the team involved was also small. So Google basically managed to keep Clips a complete secret until the day it was announced. I don't know if you remember, but when that leaked, we actually thought, or the leak, the only leak for it was Google Clip singular.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, "What's a Google Clip?"
I remember that very well. I was on the way. I wrote that article inside in the back of a Lyft because I was heading to the airport to head out to 10/4/2017.
Yeah.
And genuine surprise.
But anyways, I just have pessimism about Google's hardware chops in general. Just like, I just don't know if they actually literally have the talent to accomplish the same things that Apple's able to accomplish. And even if they do, it's clear that Google's being far more conservative about their investments on these things. Like, I mean, after 1 year of trying a tablet, they just scrapped tablets. It's like, Google just is not throwing unlimited money at this hardware venture anymore. And so
did Google do too much too fast? Is the question.
I don't know,
Or
because
should
most of the things they've done have worked out. You know, like the Google Home
Yeah.
and the Google Home Mini and the Google Home Max and the Pixel phones, obviously, and the Pixelbook. And I mean, I think the majority of the things they've attempted have been moderately successful, obviously, in terms of, but they've been successful in different ways. You know, um, like like the Google Home has been successful in terms of sheer sales numbers, and they've basically stolen half of Amazon's market share in smart speakers. And the Pixel phones have been obviously notable because of their camera and other things. So I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess to round back to the idea of wearables, Pixel Buds, I don't see what meaningful thing Google can do to differentiate, even on to get on the level of Galaxy Buds, which is they appear to be everywhere because they're being bundled in left, right, and center. But can Google get to that point? What does Google want to do with these categories surrounding their major devices? Do they want to get brand recognition? Do they want to just flood the market with cheap, affordable things? How do they want to win this? What is their goal as a hardware division?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not very clear, I don't think. And I do think that if they were to do something like a new Pixel Buds, by sidebar, Pixel Buds, I think is just a pretty awful name.
Yeah.
But if they do a second generation Pixel Buds, I think it'll just be the same thing. The difference is that they just need to catch up to Apple and just do them, or now not just Apple, but a lot of people are now doing these fully wireless earbuds. If they just did the Pixel Buds without the cord, and they had an improved pairing experience, which they've managed to do on the software side of things with Pixel. I don't know. That doesn't seem out of reach to me. And I think that ultimately their goal is to just get Assistant on and in everything, and
Yeah.
to have successful products that use the Assistant. And so I think that the Assistant would be the centerpiece of a second generation Pixel Buds, and I could see them doing something like that this year. But I don't know. I just get the sense that I really do get the sense that Google is getting more specific about the things that they've seen or they've tried that have worked, and they're kind of just letting the other things die. And so I don't know, maybe they're just not going to try headphones again, and maybe they're just going to focus on the things that have done well, which have been the Google Home and to some extent the Pixel phones and to some extent the Pixelbook. And so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And then there's the question of the watch. What do we want in a watch, in a Pixel watch? And can they successfully do anything that differentiates?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't know. I'm pessimistic about everything. I don't think we're going to see a Pixel Watch this year. I think that there is a Pixel Watch. I think there was a Pixel Watch last year that it got scrapped at the last minute because someone somewhere was a filter and said, this is not good. This is just going to be another Pixel Bud situation or another Google Clip situation. And there's no point in launching this product because it's just not, it's a guaranteed failure. And I think they probably have an iteration of that's they were considering or have actively considered launching this year that I think probably had the same fate. If I were to guess, that's how I think the watch situation has worked out. I do think we'll see more Google Homes this year, though.
Absolutely.
The other wearable thing that people have been asking about is, we've talked about this a couple times on the show, is that band, the fitness band. So if Google doesn't do a Pixel Watch, is Google going to do something that's less
Hard
less,
from a technical standpoint.
yeah, less ambitious.
Less ambitious. Yes, I hope they do. I personally hope they do, and they should in the context of health is where everybody in the technology industry is going. The Apple Watch is a great example of that. You've had Fitbit and Garmin for ages doing this, and Google has simply not had a meaningful presence in health over the past several years. And if they can do something, if they can introduce a new hardware product that's in the same vein as how successful Google Homes and smart displays have been, which means being cheap, Google can be a competitor. They have the brand name recognition. Hopefully, they have the machine learning smarts to give you meaningful insights and data into your health and do all of that. And if the way they do that is by getting a cheap, affordable band out there, I think that's one hell of a strong start.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the band just serves as a funnel for data into Google's potential AI. I mean, where Google, so Google, I don't think they can. I don't think they actually can catch up to Apple on the hardware side with the watch or even the buds. I mean, by the time Google launches something that's competitive with the AirPods, the next generation AirPods are going to be out, or it's like I don't know. I just think there's so many things that are holding Google back on sheer hardware engineering side of things, but with software, the opportunities for Google are endless, and they could match or exceed, and they already do match or exceed Apple in many, many ways. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I think that if they were to do a health band, we've talked about this on the show a lot of times, but I think if they did a health band, it would just serve as a very basic functionality funnel for getting data about you into a phone. And then they can use that data to tie in with some kind of artificial intelligence assistant powered coach of some kind, to give you tangible ways you could, I mean,
Yeah.
a personal coach, basically powered by the assistant that could, just help
And
you with the very basics of your health using whatever sensors were in such a band. I don't know. I think that's more than plausible for Google, and I just don't know. The thing about
but
that,
yeah.
yeah, the thing about that is, you have to have both. You have to both be like on the technology side, you have to do things that are practical and useful for people, but you also have to build, if it's a wearable, it has to be deeply personal and deeply, um, it's really, it really is fashion. Like it really is,
Yeah.
it has to be, if it's external, it has to be like, appealing
Plus,
to someone's personal tastes. And can
yeah.
they do that with a little fitness band? Like, is the Fitbit a fashionable item? Is it?
No, the
No,
Fitbit
it's
is not
not.
fashionable. I've tried.
And and so that, I mean, that would be the biggest challenge, I think, is like, how do you get someone to wear these things unless you target them specifically at people who are going to the gym or something? Like the reason the Apple Watch, I think, and I said this, I think on last week's show or maybe the week before, was like the killer app for the Apple Watch is the Apple Watch. I think a lot of times we look for a killer app on a platform that is the app that carries the platform into, I guess, success or into usefulness in someone's life. And I think that in the Apple Watch's case, there's no one feature of the Apple Watch that is a killer app. I don't think notifications on the Apple Watch are a killer app. I don't think that controlling music on the Apple Watch is a killer app. I don't think that Apple's health suite is the closest thing to a killer app, but even that I don't think is a killer app. I think that the Apple Watch is the killer app, and I think that the Apple Watch it's all the pieces as part of the whole make up an experience that checks every single box, all the way from being an attractive physical object that you wear that for whatever reason, because of Apple voodoo or Apple magic, signals to potential mates that you have good genes. Like that's basically what the Apple brand does. on a base level, that's essentially what Apple has built their entire business model is on, appealing to human instinct. I think that's really, I mean, unfortunately, but that's just the case, I think. And so the Apple Watch checks that box, but it also checks all the technological boxes. I just think that Google could, imagine this world where Google was the one that spent the last 5 years investing millions and millions into building this product that is the Apple Watch, and had the talent and had the engineering chops, and they were the ones that did. Imagine if they did the Apple Watch as we know it today on the hardware side of things. I think the Apple Watch would be better today if Google had made it than it is today under Apple's control.
Yes.
Because I think Google could take it further on the AI software side of things.
Yeah, who knows what they could be doing with that rich, accurate data.
Like, say, what if Apple just suddenly decided to open source the Apple Watch and just the hardware platform of the Apple Watch and just gave it to Google? I think Google could make a better product out of the Apple Watch than Apple has out of the Apple Watch.
Yeah.
The problem is that just is never going to happen. It's just not real. It's just not real.
So actually, I think with this wristband, hypothetical wristband, more than the Pixel Watch, I think we can do a lot more speculation on this wristband. So when you were talking earlier about personalization, so I think we know how Google would personalize it: colors, fabric. Do you think that's enough? Is that eye candy?
No, and it has to be more than eye candy. It can't just be pretty. And that's, I mean, Ivy Ross is really, really good at building products that are really attractive in the home. Ivy Ross invented Google Glass. She clearly has no taste for what it means to build a product that someone wears. Because if there is any product that is launched in the last 20 years that was a product to be worn on the body, that was more made a mockery of in popular culture, it was Google Glass, with which Ivy Ross had her hands all over
towards the end. Yeah.
And so I think that the band that Ivy Ross has designed, or led the teams that designed, that we've seen, that Google itself has shown off, I think that band looks really nice sitting on a table in your living room. Really, really nice. Like it's like 10 out of 10 sitting on your table in your living room, matching the aesthetic of this kind of IKEA design that she loves so much.
Yeah.
But as a wearable product, that I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And honestly, the Apple Watch doesn't make sense either, as in terms of being an attractive physical object. But it's not attractive because it's an attractive physical object. It's attractive because it's Apple, and it's attached to all of the connotation of Apple, which you got to admit, Apple does make some really, really attractive hardware.
Yeah, they have.
I just don't think the Apple Watch is the most attractive thing they've ever made.
So moving on to the next point, if they can't compete physically, then we're talking about the features. And at the start, there's already a big deficit. There's no screen to convey information. It's just a thing that you wear and you don't think about. I wouldn't be surprised if that's how Google tries to market it. You just put it on, and then ambient computing. You put it on, it recedes into the background, and your phone tells you everything. What is your opinion on the screen, on the lack of a screen? Are people just so expectant to see a screen, to get some notifications, to get the time even, that the fact that something in 2019 doesn't have a screen is a big turnoff?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a way Google could spin it as you don't have a screen, it's not distracting, you can digital well-being, etc., etc. But there is a line between something is nice and simple and something is very usable with, again, something as basic as a time, or what increasingly people expect, notifications. Even Fitbits do notifications. So I think Google it painted itself in a corner there by not including a screen. Presumably they did that because they wanted something with long battery life. They wanted something small and tiny that they could engineer successfully without the screen.
Someone says they hired 2,000 HTC employees. How do they not have a hardware team? Obviously, they have a hardware team. That's not the question.
It's how good the hardware team is,
and what experience do they have?
And I would bear in mind to remember what happened to HTC.
Yeah.
In terms of, they're not Samsung. They're not even LG. So that's another thing to bear in mind.
Definitely. Well, I think we've pretty much exhausted the wearables conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to see anything wearables from Google this fall. That's just my guess right now.
Yeah.
Purely
portable
guess.
Stuff is hard. It's hard to do things that are portable and small.
Okay, I guess we could talk now about Pixelbook, the Pixelbook situation.
Yes.
Which I don't know. People don't. I feel like this is the area that people will follow the least of Google's hardware. I mean, we've been asked to talk about wearables like every week. It feels like people are always saying Pixel Watch, Pixel Watch, Pixel Watch. And obviously the Pixel phones are a huge deal. And then also the Google Home in terms of just sheer sales numbers.
Yeah.
Is Google's most successful product by far. But the tablet/laptop division, I feel like has the least hype, and it probably, I don't know, it's probably struggling the most of every category.
Yes, I definitely agree. The least hype, but I think that's because all Chromebooks are good. Any Chromebook you buy gives you a great experience. What Google is doing, that Google right now is being the Apple of Chromebooks, and that's a very high bar for them to meet with premium hardware.
Right. Yeah, and the Pixelbook, first generation Pixelbook, is really just an extension of Chromebook Pixel, which is not a new concept. Just being the $1,000 high-end Chromebook, which is obviously more powerful and more enabled to do more things than it ever has been, and continues to grow in that. But I mean, I'm just comparing that to the first Chromebook Pixel, which felt kind of like a toy in the sense that it was just way overpowered for what Chrome OS could do at the time. Doesn't feel that way as much anymore.
No, absolutely not.
And last year, for everyone already knows that the Pixel Slate was Google's attempt at leveraging a lot of the advancements that they've made on the Chromebook or Chrome OS side of things for the last few years, and just try and see if they could move it over to a tablet form factor and see how that would do in terms of competing with the iPad and the Surface, basically. And everyone knows how that story went, which is that tablets are dead at Google again. So now the question is, okay, what about the Pixelbook? And the answer is the Pixelbook 2 is based on our knowledge, which is based on public information that Archive has done a really good job of actually digging up since all the way back, going back to August of last year, actually. We've been following and tracking this product codenamed Atlas, which last year we thought might actually launch last year alongside the Pixel Slate, which was codenamed Nocturne and had a sibling codenamed Meowth, I think, if I remember correctly. And Atlas looks like it is coming this year based on just code changes we're seeing in Chromium and just common sense and the ridiculous amount of similarities it has with the Pixelbook, and the fact that it's already leaked visually a couple times.
For the most part, yes.
It really does look like this is a Google made product, and it does look like it is going to come this year. All that said, what do you think about it? We've kind of gone back and forth, haven't we, on whether or not this is a Google product?
Yeah, so I think it is. I think it's a safe bet to say it is. And with making that assumption, something that I haven't been able to figure out is whether this is another premium laptop in a straight succession of the Pixelbook, or whether Google is putting a Pixel 3a or the formula for any other cheap Chromebook on the market, and this will be a cheaper device. I don't know how successful Google wants the Pixelbook to be. Do they want this to be the laptop that all the employees use, or do they want the Pixelbook to be a brand that to get if you want a very nice computer?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. It's still, I mean, it's been almost 2 years since the first Pixelbook, and Google just hasn't really painted a very good vision for its laptop tablet division in general.
Yeah, mobile productivity is use the web, use Google Drive, that kind of stuff.
The question of whether this will be a proper successor to the Pixelbook, or if it will be a cheaper device, I think we could probably guess the answer to that based on what we do know, because it looks like it's going to have the exact same processors that were available on the Pixel Slate. So far, we've been made aware of an i5 and an i7, which the Pixel Slate came in both of those variants. And it also has 16 gigs of RAM. It looks like, based on what we can tell, it will have a 4K display, which is not super common in Chromebooks.
No.
This would only be the second Chromebook ever with a 4K display, following the Lenovo Yoga Chromebook C630. And it also has an upgraded camera compared to the original Pixelbook, so it's up from 720p to 1080p. So to me, this seems like it's going to be a proper successor to the Pixelbook. It seems like this is going to be another premium laptop that's going to start at $999 and go up to $1399 or whatever, depending on RAM or processor specs.
Is that what Google needs right now? Is that what their mobile productivity division needs?
I don't know. I think, if I were to guess, I think this is what Google is wanting to do with their laptops. I think Google is wanting to do. So Chromebooks are already super, super successful in education in schools.
Yes.
They have by far outpaced the iPad in terms of just primary school productivity use cases. Not to mention that Google's Classroom suite is way better on the software side of things too. But I think what the primary purpose of the Pixelbook is to kind of be an extension of that success. So if someone's growing up in school and every time they're working on projects in middle school and high school, they've used Chromebooks, which at this point, graduates of high school who are going to college now have pretty much used Chromebooks their entire school careers. I mean, pretty much they've been around long enough that people who are just now graduating high school have been using them since they were in elementary school, basically. Given that that's true, there among Americans graduating from high school, there is an immense familiarity with Chromebooks and Chrome OS. So when someone goes to college, they're now faced with, I need to buy a good laptop. I need to buy a $1,000 laptop that's going to last me 4 years. It's going to be my investment. I'm getting my $5,000 refund for my student loans from Sallie Mae, and I'm going to spend $1,000 of that on a laptop. Which laptop am I going to buy? And I think Google knows that the default answer to that question is the MacBook, and will probably remain the MacBook for the foreseeable future. But there's a unique thing happening with the MacBook situation, is that it has a really bad reputation for its keyboard, and that mixed with the fact that students more and more are realizing that they don't need a super powerful computer. I mean, a lot of their schoolwork and a lot of things are now able to be done on the web and able to be accomplished through Google Docs and other web-based applications that they've been already using throughout their school careers. So I think that the Pixelbook, the first Pixelbook and the second Pixelbook, are kind of Google's offering for that demographic primarily. I think another demographic are just productive people that work online, or like writers and other people like us that are, we don't need super intensive suites of software, and Pixelbook can accomplish 90+% of the things that we do on a daily basis. So I'm personally, I think, part of the target market for the Pixelbook, but I think that the college freshman is definitely kind of what this product is made for. So I don't know. That's what I think. And I think the first Pixelbook was relatively successful at doing that.
Yeah.
It wasn't an utter failure, which says something.
Yeah, it's always been praised. There's no standing negative complaint about any changes that absolutely need to be made to the Pixelbook. And in terms of technology, it's pretty up there in terms of it's what any other top computer would honestly look like in the market.
I think what's really interesting is that I wonder how Chrome OS is going to evolve over the next 2 years, because Google has spent the last 2 years basically trying to make it more tablet and touchscreen friendly. And now it seems like they've kind of abandoned that vision. So what is Chrome OS going to look like 2 years from now?
Hopefully doubling down.
What do you think is the next big move for Chrome OS? Is it getting more and more powerful? Is it more and more of, they just added the ability to run Linux applications. Is it more of those kinds of things to make Chrome OS more functional for people who are trying to get real work done?
Real work done. Honestly, I think it's the power right now is untapped. I guess they can always make it more obvious. They can make it more apparent on how you can use these power level features. But at the same time, most people will never need to use the Linux instance on Chrome OS. So I guess a real more user-facing changes it could make is add support for, face unlock, like with what Windows is doing, with what Microsoft is doing, Windows Hello, or make sure every Chromebook has a fingerprint sensor. These hardware features, they've been slow to come to laptops, but at the same time, people are highly familiar with these features. And I think there's a place for Chromebooks to catch up to just at least Windows in that respect, with all these hardware features that maybe the use is questionable, but it's increasingly something people look for.
Well, I just wonder what the next big software feature is going to be, because for a long time it seemed like the addition of Android apps, that was an obvious potential, foundational change, and addition. I wonder what the next big thing is going to be.
But Google is in the same boat as every desktop maker. The desktops will always have a place for many, many years going forward, but there's no need for major innovation right now.
Yeah, probably true. So yeah, and I guess the takeaway on Pixelbook 2 is you should know. I don't think if people really realize this, Pixelbook 2 is definitely almost certainly happening, and it's almost certainly coming this year. And we actually have already seen images of it. So there's no real secrets left on that. So yeah, what else do we have for questions?
So we have home and those other assorted accessories.
Yeah, what are people wondering about home? Like, I'm having a hard time finding anything. New Nest cams and even a new doorbell would be welcome. I think a new Nest Cam is coming.
Yeah,
Nikkei reported
I
that
would,
earlier this year.
but I wouldn't be surprised if it's just basically the same thing
Yeah,
as what you
probably.
get today. And I think there are always dedicated uses for security cameras, for sole security cameras. You stick them on the wall. But I think what we can increasingly see as being a more popular solution is cameras and smart displays.
Yeah, I just realized too that the Nest Hub Max was announced, in May. It still is
Yeah,
not
September
out.
9th. Like, getting it September 9th.
Which is
So close to
very
the
close. Yeah, it's weird that we're seeing it come out a month before the rest of Google's hardware for the year.
It speaks to Google's hardware prowess, doesn't it? In a way.
Yes. Yeah, I think the Nest Hub Max is going to be a big deal. This year's made by Google. I think they're just going to highlight it again.
Yeah.
That's going to be a thing. I think we will see a second generation Google Home, standard Google Home. And I think we might see a revamped Mini as well.
Yeah. And
So,
if anything, do you think this October is when the home branding goes away?
no, wasn't the leak that it was Nest Home?
Nest Home. Sorry, yes, Google Home in
Yeah.
that traditional
Okay.
sense.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think this will be the year that it goes away. So I think we'll have Nest Home and Nest Home Max and Nest Home Mini.
Nest Home Max. Oh, that's so
Nest
close to Nest Home.
Nest Hub Max, I meant, but Nest Home Max too. I don't know if that we're going to see a revamped one of those. Probably not.
Or
It's too.
or rebrand, or just a rebrand, basically.
Yeah, probably just a rebrand. We definitely will see a rebrand of all that stuff this year, I think. So, anyways, where does that leave us for what we know about this year's event? So we can wrap up this slow week and this slow show. We can say we know Pixel 4 is coming. We already told you everything about that last week on our show. We know Pixelbook 2 is coming. Pretty matter of factly, we know Pixelbook 2 is coming. There are some things we can assume. I guess those are the two that we're like probably 90+% sure on, right? Like Pixel 4 is obviously 100. I would say like 95% sure that what this leaked Pixelbook 2. By the way, you can Google Pixelbook 2 and you'll see Kyle's article on everything we know about it and the leaked images and all that. I would say 95% sure that that's what's happening. And then I guess the other things are kind of more toss-ups, which some of the toss-ups are second generation Google Home, second generation Google Home Mini. We don't know about new Pixel Buds. And yeah, what else?
We're confident there's no watch.
Okay, yeah, and then the next category would be what we're confident there isn't, which is we're pretty sure there's no watch.
What would you say we are on the new Google Wi-Fi, which is Google's? It's quietly been a hit for the company, just selling those in perpetuity.
I think we'll leave the show on that note because my answer is keep an eye out for some information on that from us in the coming days. So yeah. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. You can find us on all your favorite podcasting platforms, such as Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts, and pretty much anywhere else that you listen to podcasts. We hopefully will be back to a regular show next week. This week was dreadfully slow, but we wanted to do a show anyway. We like to keep up just stay in the habit of having a show, just to have a show. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.